Gentlemen, and welcome to the second Smagrinet webinar on the subjects of economic cooperation and societal challenges in the energy sector. We have distinguished speakers participating today, a member of the Board of Elektrilevi, the Estonian DSO company, Mr. Priit Treial, and Secretary General of the World Energy Council Estonia, Mr. Priit Mändmaa. As we had last time, we only have 60 minutes, but it shall be time well spent. Make sure you have your cup of coffee with you. And if you have any questions, please make sure that you have your chat box open and write your questions there. All of the participants have about 15 minutes or more to provide their information. And after that, we go straight to questions. And if there are some unanswered questions, as it was last time, we'll make sure that we get back to them and send you the feedback afterwards. If I could just share my screen. Advanced sharing option. As always. Would like to, but of course, not always able to. Sandra, can you help me out here anyway? Share screen. Oh, thank you very much. I hope you can see my PowerPoint. Not Priit, if you can see it. Good. We, as Smagrinet, we're a small project funded 100% by the European Union's Horizon programme. We have been existing for the past year already. And with the partners at hand, we have created modules for universities on this subject. And we have short-term programmes. As we looked at the participant list, we can see that most of you are from the industry, and that's why today we are focusing more, or at least I am focusing more, on the short-term programs, which are re-education programs for the industry, for the public, and people in general. What we know today is the Green Deal. The European Green Deal. The target is to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by at least 50% by 2030 compared to the 1990s level. And the ambition is to become a net zero greenhouse gas emission union by 2050. Now, how the European Union sees that we achieve this is by energy efficiency. The power industry will largely be dependent on renewable resources. But we have to make sure, and the European Union wants to make sure, that we have affordable energy supply. One way of doing this is by fully integrating the digitalized EU energy market. There is a certain shift in the way we consume, and there is a risen awareness of what we want to consume that we didn't have before. But one of the main challenges that we see in Smagrinet, and the net implies that we work with networks, is that more and more uncertain generation means change in the way we design networks. And for the past 70 or 100 years, when we've had electricity networks, energy has flown or has been directed one way. Nowadays, with renewable generation, the electricity tries to go both ways. So there is a shift in the way we design networks, and this comes at a cost that is almost in the public discussion always set aside, or is not thought about. One is financial, and the other is societal stress regarding the developments of the smart grid. Or if we look at the cost, or the end electricity prices within the European Union, energy itself, the part of electricity actually, is 1/3, to say the most. And it's declining as we have more renewable generation and we have cheaper sources of energy, the electricity cost itself is going down. But as I said, there is a certain stress in redesigning the network which we have, and that takes financial instruments to do so, which means that the proportion of renewable subsidies and the taxes that we pay and the amount of investments that we have to do in the network are rising. We can see in Germany or Denmark, where the electricity price for the end consumer is about 300 or 330 euros per megawatt hour. But if you look at the electricity market, the electricity price is only 50, 30 in the summertime, higher in winter times. So the society might not understand the information that it's getting, that we are getting more cheaper electricity. That part is absolutely correct. But what we have to do is that we have to transport the electricity from somewhere. If we look at offshore wind farms or power generation offshore, we have to run gigantic lines to get the electricity from the produced unit to the consumer. So there is strain on the building of the infrastructure, and this infrastructure runs through land and people's home and real estate. If we look at where substations will be put, and what people or the end consumer or the home consumer does not feel this, but the fluctuation of the energy price is something that the industry or heavy industry definitely feels. And of course, if you're an electricity producer, you see more and more negative energy prices at certain hours. For example, during windy, beautiful summer Sundays or Saturdays in the middle of summer. Some people have an opinion on the aesthetic side of renewable energy sources, or especially wind farms and PVs on our roofs, because people have this "not in my backyard" thinking. And from the network side, although the European Union's directives have asked for the digitalization of the grid by implying smart meters, personal data usage, or the GDPR question, is one of the heaviest on the table today, because people would like to have control over their own personal data usage, but with the smart grid, that is a delicate question. But all in all, there's nothing we can do about it. We just have to accept it. As managers, you form your business strategies according and in line with the policies that we have in the EU in your specific country. But the rest of the company might not. Your employees, your co-workers might not understand it. And this is very important, where Smagrinet also comes in this. There is a huge role in teaching and educating and re-educating our society of why these changes are taking place. Where is the end game? Where is the actual advantage that we are getting, especially with the climate, especially with how much money we spend less in the future if we do these changes today. Because what we understand, we do not fear. It's a cliche, I know, but it works here very well. And it is the understanding that in Smagrinet, that the knowledge of the transition and the knowledge on smart grid becomes common knowledge. And this is the way forward with transitioning anything, even your companies. The more your team understands why things are done, economically speaking, societal challenges explained to them, and the future explained to them, the easier it is. The easier it is for you to do whatever you want to with your company because your team is on board. So that's why from the managerial side, it's very important to educate the same understandings that you have, the same points that you align your strategy, your business with, to the people you work with. It's very important to expand the knowledge within the society. So in Smagrinet, we make sure that we provide this type of knowledge through our short-term blended programs. We provide continuing educational courses for the current electrical engineering workforce, from the industry to the network. Of course, engineering researchers as well, but we have a lot of emphasis on the broader public as well, for decision makers and managers. And the expected outcomes in our programs is that they will identify main trends of EU policy that influence the smart grid territory, and identify development plans for the smart grid, nationally or EU-wide. And they will be able to explain the impacts of development plans for the smart grid, how decisions affect the grid, the electricity sector in general. They have a broad understanding of it if they pass our courses. And they are able to list mechanisms and the role of digital exploitation, because digitalization is the hot topic today. They will be able to optimize data with tools that are widely used in the industry. They are able to understand which levers of actions make networks more reliable and efficient, and they are able to apply these methods and tools in the energy sector itself. So these are the things that we emphasize here in Smagrinet. We try to teach. Now, if you have any questions, I would like to see if we have any. Can't see I have. If you would like to have one of these re-education programs at your company, at your ministry, at your school, please contact us. If you have any further questions, ask or email us. So we will send you the presentations as well today. So don't worry if you missed something, and we will help as best we can. Now, do we have any questions? Can't see to have any. Here I am. This was a very efficient presentation. As I can see, we have no questions. But if I may ask Mr. Priit Treial to take over and actually say how things are in the grid, because we are only trying to teach you know what has to be taught. So we'll hear from you. Please, Priit.
Yes, hello to everyone. So I hope my sharing is working.
Yes.
So excellent. So as Carl briefly introduced me, I'm the member of a board at Elektrilevi, and I have quite strong financial background. Prior to Elektrilevi, I was working in Eesti Energia as a chief financial controller, and prior to that, I was working in an investment fund for 8 years. So the numbers are something that are really keen to me. But anyhow, as I did not have any concrete theme, so I just improvised a bit, and the title is "Will DSO survive in the future, near future, and in the long run?" Maybe it seems like an unfair assumption or a title, but as DSO is a natural monopoly as such, but but the markets and the technology has substantially changed and is changing in the near future. And TSO has to always think 10 or even 20 years ahead, because all the investments are with a very long depreciation rate. So there has to be a smart capex involved every time we made any decisions. And of course, if there are challenges, there are also opportunities. So a little bit about Elektrilevi. We are the local Estonian DSO. We have about 93% of the market share. There are a few smaller DSOs in Estonia as well, but we are the largest ones. We have about 730 employees at the moment, and the annual revenue is a bit over 200 million euros, and our regulated asset base is close to 800 million euros, and around 0.7 million clients, which we are serving today. And a bit of a background of the global trends that we can't ignore, and I strongly believe in those trends as well. These are assumptions, and we see that electricity demand is growing, and it's growing quite rapidly. It's next 15 years, it should be 20% of growth. If you're speaking in our DSO, we see 1 to 2% of growth per year. But of course, it depends on climate, and of course, in current situation, as this COVID hit us, we saw the -8% of consumption drop. Now it is, I can say, it is normalized. In August, the drop of consumption was only -1%, so we are recovering quite well in that sense. Data traffic growth, it is also presented. I will speak about it a bit more, but this is really exponential growth. It is seen that with the 6 years, the growth of data downloaded is 4 times higher than when it was 2016. And of course, the distributed generation, it is something that is growing quite fast, and especially in our case, we see the new PV parks built up every day, and it has substantial impact to our network. So this is some new challenges for us. So, but back to the title. In my opinion, the race is on, and the race is on the new technology versus grid. And you can see in the right corner of this graph, it is compiled by Ernst & Young. It was done a couple of years ago, but it is still valid, and it will be more valid in the future. And what to see here is to compare the alternative technology as a utility plus battery solutions compared to the total energy cost. Ernst & Young is prognosing that we hit the break-even point if you are comparing to fully delivered cost of electricity, even by the year 2023, 2024. And of course, it's for global pricing and compared to the other countries as well. But as you see in this yellow middle marker, which is Estonia, this is our prognosis that during, I think it's close to 2035, it might be the break-even point. Then the local alternative solution is cheaper than to buy the electricity in an old-fashioned way. Therefore, what got us here won't got us further anymore. So it has to be a new level efficiency needed if you're operating a DSO business to be competitive compared to the alternative technologies. And it needs a really iron fist OPEX policy, which we have done, I think, 5 years already now. And of course, the new challenge is how to integrate and control and steer all the distributed energy resources. We have this nice example that during 2017, only 10 megawatts of PV parks were installed in our network. By the end of 2021, even in the beginning of 2021, we prognosed that there might be almost 400 megawatt of installed PV parks in our TSO network. And this one cool example as well, it was in 22nd of June this year, and in specific hours, 25% of all the consumptions came from PV parks, which we delivered to our clients, not from TSO side, but from PV parks, which is installed in our network. So, yeah, this is the background, and the race is on. This is the key message here.
Excuse me, one question. We are looking for these graphs, and it's compared to nowadays, it's very inaccurate. So if we are looking for the price over $200 per megawatt, if you look to the today market, then it's very different.
Yeah, I agree, because
today we this year in Estonia we had a negative price first time in the history. So
yeah, but
this is very inaccurate.
I completely agree that this year the energy prices has been something that we have never seen before. But if you are looking long run, I think we see energy prices 40 or 50 euros per megawatt hour, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So moving on. So I bit talk about what we have done and how to meet those challenges. And I think Estonian regulation is one of the most liberal regulation in Europe and even compared to the other countries as well. And it is strongly leaning to innovation and digitalization. And one thing that has really substantially resulted the OPEX decrease for our clients is that we installed the smart meters, and it was a regulated act, and we started the mass rollout in 2013, and it has substantially decreased our network losses, which was close to 6%. Now it's in even some months it's lower than 4%, and the financial impact is almost 5 to 6 million euros per year due to that. And of course, the client satisfaction has doubled due to the more convenient client service. And of course, we can improve agreed planning and investments due to that we have basically the info in real time almost achieved. So this is, I think, a real success story in our grid and for our clients as well. And what we are really focused at the moment is that our regulator has allowed us to do a similar side activities in our grid. So what we have done is, as I mentioned, that we have 93% of market share in distribution business, but also we are managing the street lighting, and the biggest project at the moment is that we are building the high-speed optic fiber to our overhead lines, and the investment program is close to 100 million euros. And we hope to get around 100,000 clients by end of 2025. And why I'm talking about this, because with combined management and using this one infrastructure is most optimum way to share the cost of society. And we have very good examples that due to that we have decreased substantially and the cost of a regulated business, because we just share functions and employees and IT systems and so on, and of course share the capex as well if they're building something together. So this is something I think can help us in this race. About the outlook, what has to be changed in pricing and client models. We will introduce dynamic pricing starting from 2021. It means that during the peak hours, there will be a higher pricing for the clients, just to give us the clients a signal that they have to shift consumption to the other times, and there is no peaks. And of course, client-based fees. I mean the fixed fee versus kilowatt-based fees. It's very usual problem, especially in Eastern Europe, that the private clients are not paying the fair amount from their proportion, because the costs are higher than they are paying, and of course the business clients and large consumers are paying higher price than they should. Therefore, the only solution here is to shift more to the fixed fee basis, and then it could result that the competition for or the environment would be better for the business clients and more fair for the private consumers. And of course, what we are really keen and we are really active, what we are doing at the moment is to attract new high volume clients. We are speaking with Rail Baltic, we have speak with Estonia Railways, as you know, Estonia Railways. Our ambition is to electrify all the railway by 2028. So we have I have the deal that they are connecting to us and using the DSO network for this ambition. And this is a real and very important thing for us, because the more the kilowatt hours we have in the network, the cheaper is the service which we are offering. And bit of background as well, so it would be not just a talk, that there has been some clear results as well. We have decreased our tariff for almost 20% during the last 3 years, and my key message is here that there has to be a very strong OPEX monitoring in the company. And of course, if you are doing the CAPEX, we have to do a smart CAPEX, and we have to think ahead 20 or 30 years. And of course, there has been increased network volumes that has resulted more cheaper price for the clients. And here are some key figures as well, just to illustrate how the KPIs have changed, which we are monitoring every year. The fixed cost, the regulated fixed cost, has almost decreased in 5 years, 5 million euros, or even more. Network reliability has almost doubled, and of course, due to the smart metering, we have almost 4 times less inquiries by the customers. And as mentioned before, the network losses have substantially decreased. And yeah, this is the background of my presentation. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you very much, Priit. We shall wait for other questions as well. But so, to your understanding and what you presented, is it fair to say that investment into the smart grid pays off? And how quickly does it pay off? If we take your smart metering project for instance.
Yeah, we constantly monitoring that the project NPV is still positive, and it still is positive. Of course, if energy prices substantially has decreased in this year, it might change the story. But yeah, I think the fair answer is that, for example, the smart metering, the payoff time is around 10 years.
Good. Aivar Usk asked, how much emphasis is put on risk analysis for provision of stable energy mix to avoid blackout events like in California recently? It would be nice if we had a speaker from the TSO. But if you would like to get an exact answer for that, well, a lot of emphasis is put into it. Don't get me wrong. Each year, the TSOs give out reports on this matter throughout the EU states in the ENSOE membership companies. So if you would like to get a more exact answer for it, then I suggest turning to those reports. They are given out annually. And I believe that can you suggest some papers about pricing schemes within energy sharing, trading, smart prosumer communities? Again, I would suggest turning to those TSO, transmission system operator reports, which they do annually. They keep an eye on energy communities and the progress of energy communities as well. So I suggest turning there for information. Any other questions? There is a lot of there is the facts of subsidies in the energy sector or the electricity sector. Renewable energy sources have been subsidized, which have led to the increase and the explosion of increased production of renewables. And there is talk about subsidizing maybe batteries, subsidizing hydrogen production, green hydrogen production in the EU. You showed the graph where at some point batteries with renewable will compete with the grid itself. Would it be fair that if everybody is subsidized, and this is a loaded question, you don't have to answer, of course, should the grid also be subsidized if there is such an increase in the renewables and different forms of electricity generation and storage being subsidized as well, if they are subsidized?
Good question. In my opinion, the push that has done or put into the renewables and how it is subsidized in the history, I think it's okay, but it has to stop in the future because all our clients are paying the subsidized green energy from their pockets, and as we've seen that if this new volumes has put into the auction or the market, it is very much meeting the market price. So I think the technology is there and it can compete already with the market price. So in history it was okay, but let's be smarter in the future about those things. And about the grid, no, I don't think that it has to be subsidized.
Said it was a free
market.
Understood, because the core essence of subsidies is to help innovation get on its legs, and questions have risen that if renewable is becoming cheaper and cheaper, why do we have to subsidize? So
true indeed.
They are ending. Of course, there is an element of supporting or giving a leg up with these energy auctions as well, especially if generation is happening during nighttime and the demand for it is not that high, but they still get the fixed price of it. But that is still giving some leg up. but probably it will be changed as well in the long run, maybe. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much, Priit,
Okay.
for your presentation. Priit, may we ask you to say hello?
Yes, hello to everyone. Nice to be with you. So I'll set up my slideshow. Now I hope you can see it. Yep.
Absolutely clearly.
Yes, we do.
So I've been asked to predict the future. Luckily, I can rely on the work of about 100 energy experts from all parts of the world, who have analyzed the data, who have come together in workshops to discuss and brainstorm about the future. And all that knowledge has been gathered by the World Energy Council and put into the World Energy Scenarios reports. So today I will talk about the global perspective 2060, and afterwards I will speak about the European regional perspective with the timeline up to year 2040. I will explain the narrative behind it. So first, let's have a look at the global side. So while creating the scenarios, the World Energy Council expects that the growth rate of global population will slow down. Also that there will be a rise of new technologies, that people understand that the planet Earth has limits, and also that the economic power is shifting towards Asia. These are the predetermined factors which you can see on the left-hand side of the slide. The future really depends on the people, the society. What kind of relationships we have with our neighboring countries, meaning the geopolitics. What do we prioritize in our life, meaning that whether we consider or give priority to climate change issues. Also, in which way we manage the energy sector, and also how innovative we are. What kind of new technologies will we have, and how it will affect the productivity on the one hand, and also the labor force needs on the other hand. And these are the critical uncertainties which you can find on the right hand side of the slide. And while trying to assess these uncertainties, the World Energy Council has created 3 plausible scenarios and has named them after musical genres. So there's modern jazz, there's unfinished symphony, and there's hard rock. Now I will give you an explanation of the ground rules for all of those 3 scenarios. So pay attention, because if you miss that bit, you probably won't understand what the heck I'm going on about. So modern jazz, it is this kind of market-driven world. There's a lot of cooperation between countries globally. It is innovative and highly digitally disruptive. In a jazzy world, the value of data is very well understood. It is an agile world with a lot of twists and turns. If you see them, I can't use my, oh yeah, here it is, the arrow. I hope you can see the arrow. If you see the badge here, the image, you see it has a lot of twists and turns. That is kind of the nature. To get from point A to point B, you have a lot of changes. And that is the jazzy world. If you have to describe it in one term, it is market-based. Now the second one is unfinished symphony, which is a world where the states play a key role. Strong policies, long-term planning, united actions with other countries to fight the climate change and proceed with the energy transition. A lot of synergies. So it's kind of, sorry about that. It's sort of like a straight line from A to B because of the long-term planning. And if I had to use one term to describe the unfinished symphony world, that would be state policies. Third is the hard rock scenario. That is a fragmented world, which means that all countries are fighting for their own well-being in a fully self-interest manner. They're protecting their own interest, and the cooperation on the global level is low. It is focused on national security and also national energy security. And if you put it in one term, it is a mix of state policies and markets, but it is in a different way. You don't have that much cooperation between states. So this is the sort of a framework of the scenarios of the World Energy Council. So now I will show you some of the predictions. There's many more, but due to time, I will go through just a few and show you how the different scenarios will play out in those predictions. So the first one is that the world's primary energy demand growth will slow and per capita energy demand will peak before 2030. And the main reasons for that are because of new technologies and more stringent energy policies. As you can see, unfinished symphony, that is the state policies world, will give us the highest decrease of primary energy demand. So, I mean, in the unfinished symphony scenario, the growth will be the smallest, which is from the sustainability aspect, which is what we're looking for. Secondly, demand for electricity will double to 2060. Over here you can see that the highest consumption rate comes along with modern jazz scenario, and the level of demand is relatively similar in unfinished symphony and hard rock scenarios. In comparison, on the left, you see the 2014 electricity demand, which is roughly half of what it will be in 2060. Third, the share of solar and wind energy will increase a lot. The most in unfinished symphony scenario. Fourth, transitioning the global transport will be one of the hardest obstacles to overcome in the upcoming years, decades. Yet the best results we can see again in unfinished Symphony scenario with 2.8 billion electric vehicles out of the overall set. Now, if we move on, unfortunately, I must say that none of the scenarios will meet the 2-degree target. The closest we will get is with the unfinished Symphony scenario, and the second one is modern jazz. Hard rock doesn't do that well. And over here, we can see the trilemma index. So for those of you who don't know what the trilemma index is, it is a concept created by the World Energy Council, which states that a good energy policy consists of 3 elements, which are security, energy security, then the affordability, and thirdly, sustainability. And for a good energy sector, there must be a balance between all of those 3 elements. The most balanced result we can see is with unfinished Symphony scenario, and yet with modern jazz we can see that the security side is a bit better than with unfinished Symphony, as well as the affordability aspect. Yet the sustainability in modern jazz is a little bit lower than in unfinished Symphony. Anyways, I guess the lesson to be learned here is that openness and cooperation leads to better results, because if we look at the third, or the trilemma on the right, which presents the hard rock result, then that is quite it's not that good, I would say. So it's better to be cooperative rather than protectionistic and fragmented. Now that is the global side for now. Now if we look at the European regional perspective up to 2014, I won't cover the implications. I have left them in the slideshow, because you will receive the slideshow so that you can have a look. Rather than I will give you an overview of the narrative, how those different scenarios can develop in Europe. The ground rules for the scenarios are still the same. Modern jazz is still a market-driven world, borderless and based on global competition. But yeah, so how will the scenarios develop, and how it will affect the society? So basically, for modern jazz to develop in Europe, the narrative is that policymakers understand that we need innovation and experimenting. And for that reason, too stringent regulations need to be abolished to enable businesses to innovate and experiment. And this means that corporations are not built on the European policymakers level, but rather other types of institution and cooperation options are being used. For example, city-to-city initiatives, they might flourish, etc. Also, this kind of faith in business, as the policymakers would be placing, would reflect also on the citizens, who would expect who would expect the businesses to also solve their needs. And what it means is that there is a strong growth of innovation, but it would spread unevenly within Europe. Digitalization is strong and based on data management, which empowers the customers as the real owners of the data, but also with all those database solutions enables them to carry the burden of energy security or play a crucial role in it. A strong innovation in the transportation sector happens thanks to the technology cost reductions, and also strong innovation in the storage options, batteries, for example. And this also will affect the energy sector as a whole and make it more sustainable in a way. So all in all, a modern gas world is a digital one where the first movers will have an enormous advantage. Now, unfinished symphony. It is a narrative where the fear of recession, for example, brings the states of Europe closer together. Yet Brexit has highlighted the unhappiness of the citizens, and therefore the European Union subsidiarity principles are revisited, and the states would receive more independence in solving their energy issues. The long-term targets are set together for the whole region, but the different states have the right to go their own way to meet them. The energy system becomes the cornerstone for the whole economy and the sustainable growth. Sector coupling, creation of single united grids are valued as it increases the energy security. The climate targets are the drivers for innovation, and also inherent to unfinished symphony is the potential of big scale projects like CCUS or large scale storage options. Basically, these kind of huge projects which need a lot of investments, which is difficult for private companies to provide. And now, last but not least, the hard rock scenario. This is a world, or the narrative goes in a way that European citizens are unhappy about the bureaucracy of the European Union, and therefore the conservative parties take the power. This kind of me-first attitude increases, which is further supported by Brexit, by America First attitude, as well as the pressure from China. Countries become protectionistic and want to do their own thing. The inequality between states grows. Cooperation takes place on a bilateral level. There's simply almost no global cooperation. National security is a priority also from the energy security aspect. Data sharing is limited, which means that innovation and digitalization becomes more difficult to advance. And inequality between the states even is made worse by the fact that talented people tend to move to richer areas. And due to lack of innovation and digitalization, there is a risk for unemployment between young people. And despite the fact that the targets for climate and energy policies are still in place, because of the protectionistic attitude and lack of cooperation in businesses as well as science, the results are lesser and unequal within Europe. Now, as said, I won't go into the energy implications. They're in the slideshows so that you can go through them. Also have a look at the recommendations. I know that I have run out of time a bit. So thank you from my part. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to take the shot.
Thank you very much, Priit. Do we have any questions? I'll take mine, if you let me. As you showed, and as the Green Deal shows, then the European Union is on the right track. We have ambitious plans. We are not afraid to say it out. Your World Energy Council analysis unfortunately showed that whichever trajectory we take, we will not meet the global 2 degrees target. So how it's not about showing the blame, but how as a union can we spread the idea or make it happen and show them that, well, do the same thing that we do. At least we will prolong the inevitable a bit longer.
Yeah, I guess that it would require an extensive change or some sort of a new technology which would make the knowledge we have today would make it change. The understandings we have today, let's say in 10 years' time, are completely different because of those new options, that new technology. Also, perhaps as Smagrinet is playing its part, sharing the knowledge and making people or businesses to accept the changes, the new potential options, and perhaps then the prediction can change. But of course, the scenarios, there's many different scenarios. Those three that I've introduced are the ones of the World Energy Council, and clearly we have put a lot of thought into the potential technology changes and new innovations. But yet again, I hope we're wrong, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. I hope there's something more in it, something new that will change everything what we know so far, and we will be in a position to say, damn, we were wrong.
Well, we have our last question. Maybe we can reflect on this. Have any scenarios been analyzed? What happens when the hypothesis of CO2 reduction for stopping global warming turns out to be a fallacy? Loaded questions. That maybe you have to specify the scenario itself. On which parts it's wrong. Don't know. Sorry, Ivor. Don't know what you are looking for. Or do you, Priit? Do you understand the question? Have you done any analysis on if the reduction for stopping global warming turns out to be a fallacy?
No, I have not. No. A quick answer is no, I have not.
Good. Well, thank you very much, Priit. It was a pleasure. And what we can take away is that we need to educate our society. Smagrinet does it for you. If you would like to have any modules or short-term programs at your workplace, then let us know. Thank you very much for participating today, and follow our social media and subscribe to our newsletter at www.smagrinet.eu, and we will have our next webinar soon, which will be on the more technical side of the smart grid development. Thank you very much, and goodbye.